So I think without further ado, we're going to introduce our next speaker. And he's someone who has shown how to build an interesting company that he always makes sure to let people know that don't say it's just a ride sharing company. It's so much more. And so here today we have Karanvir Singh, the CEO of Yego, to give us a rundown on what's going on in transportation in Africa.
Hi, thank you. This is Karanvir Singh, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to join you. I can't see where you are, but I hope you're all safe and well during these crazy times. So one would look at it and say, the pandemic has been really, really bad for the economies, for a lot of people, lives lost. But for us, it's been a kind of a wild ride. And I'll allude to that as we go through this informal presentation. So as many of you may be aware, we started off in 2017 and we created what we called the world's first metering system for motorcycle taxis. And the reason why we did that was when we spent time in Africa, we found that 99% of the motorcycle taxis and even cabs are actually hailed without any technology. You put your hand out and you flag them down. So we said, okay, how do we solve the problem by providing technology to these people, because the passengers don't have the technology. So what we did was we built a platform which basically provided fare fares, which were distance based. We put the meter on the taxi and we allowed passengers to be able to call rides using a call center, and we allowed cashless payments, and we came up with a lot of incredible firsts, I would say. But the biggest thing that we did was we designed the entire system to work without the need for internet. So really speaking from that perspective, I think we were a game changer compared to everybody else who built an app. We built a meter. We built something that was tamper proof. We built something that could be used everywhere. We built something that didn't need the passenger to have a smartphone, and it didn't need for there to be even internet connectivity. So these were some of the things that we did. Lockdown for us straight away, it created a lot of opportunities. We were able to negotiate with the government and we were able to get our delivery services going. First, they allowed us to use cabs because people needed to go to the hospital, needed to buy food, medicine, and things like that. But we very quickly also pivoted to training our drivers to deliver goods and services. One of the interesting things is that when you start a delivery service in a situation like a lockdown is you need to take care of a lot of things which you wouldn't normally have considered. The biggest challenge we had is the establishments, so the supermarkets, the pharmacies, they had no idea of how fulfillment works. They had no idea on how to take orders. So we had to spend a lot of our time in actually training their staff, and in fact, even embedding our staff there to be able to get them to be able to provide these kind of benefits to our customers who were using either the app or were using the call center to actually order goods and services. At the same time, we also realized that because the money in the entire economy has gone down, has become very tight, we found that corporates were now struggling to kind of maintain costs within budget. So we came up with a corporate accounting system. Again, the brilliant part, I think, about the corporate accounting system is that you could have 300 employees. You could have a very detailed budgeting system in terms of who can travel using what kind of transport, how many trips, what is the maximum amount that he could spend on a trip. But at the same time, you don't need a smartphone. You just need an NFC tag. So something as simple as a tag like that on any phone, and you can tap and pay, and the money gets decremented from the account, and the person and the HR has the ability to see real time usage of money, but also compliance. Because a lot of people say, hey, I'm going to go for a meeting. and they would normally come back with a paper bill. Now the question is, did they really go for the meeting or not? So we built a lot of things across this corporate account, which has actually taken off. We also did something quite crazy. So we say, what have you done for your drivers? And we say zero. What we mean by this is, in the history of Rwanda, there are about, I would say, 14 to 1600 taxi cabs here. When they import a taxi cab which is 15 years old, they used to call it a brand new taxi cab. So for the first time, based on the, I would say, credit scoring and the analytics that are built into our platform, we were able to arrange finance, and we were able to get in what they called 0 kilometer cars. So for the first time in Rwanda, independent taxi cab owners now are being able to buy brand new vehicles. And this is not just for the four wheelers as such, but we are also pushing it to the two-wheeler segment, where we are driving them to all open bank accounts. So we're driving financial inclusion, saving, group insurance, and a lot of other things. Plus, of course, as you probably are aware, the President, Paul Kagame, last year announced the move to electric motorcycles. So we are currently testing two types of electric motorcycles, and we hope that one of them will succeed working in this hilly terrain. And that's something else that we would come up. Again, the model there would be to be able to provide it to the driver, where he actually saves money from having a carbon or a combustion engine motorcycle, so that the cost of fuel and the cost of rental that he's used to paying would actually be much lower. We also introduced something called smart ride pairing. Now, because of COVID, the amount of interactions that you would need to have should be minimized. But one of the things that the government was very keen on is that the moment somebody takes a taxi or a motorcycle taxi, they would like to know the identity of the passenger and the identity of the driver, so that you could link back and you could basically trace who rode which motorcycle or who rode which taxi cab at which point in time. So we came up with a system where the meter basically pops up a QR code, and you can use your app to instantly pair with the meter. So you don't need to enter your phone number, which a lot of ladies don't like, because then drivers tend to call them back to have conversations later in the evening, which are not always fun. And the other part was that the destination was automatically entered. And if you had a pre-selected means of cashless payments, that was also taken care of. So with the new normal, the big challenges for us were to take cash out of the system. And that was something we started doing in 2017. But with support from the government, we have been able to increase the cashless transactions. In fact, not just for us, but for the entire ecosystem. So if you look at MTN mobile money in a small country like Rwanda, it's gone up by about 7 times is basically the increase that we see in the use of cashless transactions. I would request if we can play a short video, which is basically going to show you a completely different product. But while we were sitting here, and like I said, it was a wild ride for us, we were ideating and thinking about what is everything that we have been able to do with Yego, and with Yego in terms of utilizing technology in a manner that it could basically be widely used by a lot of people in developing in economy kind of environment. So we came up with something which is quite new, which has been taken on right now very seriously by the Smart Africa Alliance. In fact, we have an MOU and an agreement with them right now, and we have a lot of interest from other countries. So I'm just going to request that a short video be played. This is something which kind of shows the kind of creativity and innovation that we have at Yego, and how we build it into other streams to be able to possibly help everybody come back to living a normal life.
Introducing Comtrace, a solution so simple that it's ingenious, providing incredibly accurate contact tracing. now go on with your life. Interested? Contact us today.
Thank you for that. The other thing that I wanted to just mention is that we started a company in Kenya last year, and we were supposed to start operations in March. But because of COVID and the lack of ability to travel, we have had to slow that down. But in the meantime, there was a very large project for matatus uh, with NTSA, and we are one of the companies which have been shortlisted along with our partner. So we are actively pursuing that opportunity, and I think by January, uh, Yego Mobility would have launched in Kenya, first with matatus, and of course, then we will go on to taxi cabs and to the boda bodas as well. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Karanvir. I was on mute. You learn in a digital environment. Thank you so much for that. I learned a lot as usual. I wanted to ask a question in regards to this tracing that you actually, in a sense, will be helping to do. Do you have any concerns about privacy at all regarding this method, or do you think here that the benefits outweigh the potential privacy considerations?
I think that's a fantastic question, because if you look at what's happened around the world, Google and Apple came together for the first time, created a common API. Many countries launched the app, but the app has been a failure around the world. And the reason for that is, first thing is that you certainly won't trust Facebook or anybody else, or Google or Apple to put any kind of software into your phone, because your phone has a lot of private information. So the device that we have made, firstly, is again engineered for Africa with the same kind of concept like the meter on the Yego. First thing we say is that it doesn't need to be charged, right? So it's got a 3-year battery life. Second thing is it has no connectivity. It doesn't connect to internet. It doesn't send up any data. It doesn't connect to Wi-Fi. It doesn't have any GPS, doesn't track your location. It doesn't contain any personal identification of yours at all. So what happens is that you keep the tag with you. God willing, you don't contract COVID, and no one you know contracts COVID. After 3 years, hopefully this COVID thing is finished. You just dispose of the tag, or we have, in fact, some other clever ways in which you can use it for other applications. But the tag then, imagine it has got no personal information. It is not storing any personal information. The only thing it's storing is the other identities, which are anonymous IDs, of the other tags that it sees in close proximity, along with the duration and time. And we have worked with epidemiologists to come up with some very creative ways to be able to even detect something like super spreaders. So what we are saying is, look, the pain today for opening up the economy is huge. Privacy is a big issue. This device stores no private information at all. Only because when the government gives it to you, they link it to an identity, and the government knows the national ID that was linked with the tag. So there's absolutely no privacy issue. And from that perspective, I think it's a brilliant concept.
Got it. Interesting. Thank you so much for clarifying that, because that's very important on the continent, especially. There's always this concern that there's not enough of a regulatory environment to safeguard people's privacy in all things with technology. So that's actually very, very important that you highlighted that. Just a quick question about what has the response been from African governments? Have you received some yes, please sign me up for this, or what's the response been like so far for this app?
It's basically a device with a platform, and I think for the people who have come and seen the way in which we built our Yego platform, the Yego platform is a very in-depth kind of platform that does all the back-end processing. But from a usability perspective, it's just one simple tag. I wish I had one lying around. It's just a tag that you wear around your neck. It's like an ID card, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now when you wear the ID card, you You can be uneducated. You don't need to be trained to do anything. There's no pairing, switching on, switching off, nothing. So the African countries are very excited because they want to open up the economy. Now, if you look at the cost of it, I mean, we say 2 cents, but really it's probably 1.1 cent over the lifetime cost for the device. So if I as a company was told that, hey, listen, you need to buy a device, because today we are allowed to have only 50% of the people working. And if the government came to me and said that, look, we'll allow you to work at 100% capacity, but you basically would need to buy the device, which costs it $12. And if I have 50 employees or whatever, I'd go ahead and I'll provide it, right?
Got it. Excellent. Very interesting. So you're receiving, I take from that, some queries that people are interested in, and this is a very needed in these pandemic times. So I'm going to go ahead and thank Karanvir again for a very, very interesting presentation, and move on to introducing our next speaker. So thank you again, Karanvir. Our